Hello and welcome to a showcase and guide to Mountain of Faith's extra stage. I will be doing a different sort of video from last time when I did USD, where instead of just putting all this text on screen, trying to describe things with just letters and not really show too much, I figured it would be better if I simply talk over one of my runs, explain my strats, point things out with my cursor that cannot be seen. Are you for real? Oh, cool. I can't. There it is. I'll just keep that in. Anyways, I'm going to be going over, like I said, my routes, my strats, what's important to look for, what's easy, what's hard, and just general stuff you can do. The run I will be showing is my Marisa A run. That was the last one I did. It does not mean it is specifically the best one. I don't think it's it doesn't mean I think it's the best one. It doesn't mean I think it's the worst one. It's just the one I feel will best show how to do the stage as a whole, because it was the last one I did. And so it's the best one to show for this stage because of how route heavy a lot of the attacks are. And so it'll show how I actually do them by the end, because on some of the others, I kind of lucked out. Here, I got some pretty bad RNG at times, and I executed routes well for the most part. So it should be good. After this, I will go over every single one of my runs, which ones I think were the best. I'll start at the best one, and then I'll show that run I'll show that run after I explain my pros for the shot type, what's good about it, my cons, what's bad about it, what different things may you have to do, because Mountain of Faith has a lot of interesting shot types. You have Marisa A with her options and how they move around, Marisa C with how you have to plant them, Reimu C, who has a spread shot type, which will require shotgunning, Reimu A, who has homing, and things such as that. I will show the runs in their entirety, so this one will be shown later, but I'm just going to talk over it for now, and then later you can see it alone. If you would rather just not listen to me talk, this video is going to be in the description. It is unlisted, because I figured I might as well just put it out there. And so, this is my video. These are all the runs I did, and we will be going over them. So, let me just move on. So, for our first section, we just have streaming. Nothing really important to say here. Alright, so first, after the streaming section, you'll have these green enemies that will come up from the left and the right. Generally, I always want to focus on the right ones first, in a way. What you want to do with most shot types is just stand close to one of the columns of enemies, because they'll come around and you want to just take care of them as fast as possible. If you want to focus on the right ones first, like I typically do, what you're going to want to usually do is quickly sweep over when these are all high up, just to quickly wipe them out and then go back here. It doesn't matter much for this part, but later on there's a section that's much more prolonged. Another streaming section. More streaming. Don't focus on killing any of these fairies, as it's not very important. So just move along and then do what you need to do. For this fairy, all of this rice is aimed around you, while these bubbles are aimed at you. So what you want to do is focus heavily on this fairy in particular. Well, obviously this one. and then like sidestep the bubbles as they come along. Another one will show up later, but before that, enemies will come from the left here, and so you're going to want to move towards them just to quickly deal with them. You can move to the right instead. You're going to have to stream the bullets they shoot out. And for the second one, they're going to come from the right. Like right here, I just quickly deal with that, move back to the center. Doesn't matter too much if you don't kill it super quickly, because you can just pass through the walls or the rice and then do that. Got a bit lucky there. As I said, this section is much more prolonged, so it's a bit more of an issue. But and now we just spin. The fairies will come from the top of the screen, and then eventually some of them will move down even more, like that. So as long as you don't accidentally run into them, there shouldn't be any issues. And then we get to Kaneko. Kaneko has the most attacks out of any extra stage mid-boss. Starts out with a non-spell, it's pretty random, and then 3 more spell cards. I'm not sure what to say about this one. There's just... bullets will sort of come at a very, like, horizontal angle. They'll slowly move down, and then you have the ones that'll just come up from the top. He doesn't have much health, though, so as long as you focus damage on her, it ends pretty fast. This spell card can last a while, but it's not difficult. The pattern she shoots out is static, so it'll always be the same. The only thing is her movement is random. I generally try to place myself in a gap to the left of her, and then I get to move in towards her. As for this spell card, it's not anything notable at all. You just have to move up and down for it with any shot type, no matter what. Just make sure before moving that almost all of the rice has turned gray. And that's it. No need to move around a lot. For this one, it'll shoot down in the center, and then you want to move it over to the right. You also want to aim a second one. I said the right. She'll always go to your position, so except for the first wave. So you want to aim her towards a wall. I prefer the left one. And then she'll shoot one right down there. You're going to have to dodge the center wave, but you want to also have her aim one again to the left. So aim 2 down here. Then move over to the right. Aim 2 over here. Dodge what you need to. And if the spell card lasts any longer, just move back to the left wall, rinse and repeat. Most shots don't have to deal with that. After that, we have another streaming section. The rice this fairy shoots is static, so it's always going to be the same pattern. It might be aimed. I'm not 100% sure, but it's always felt the same to me. As long as you kill it in the same time as usual. Otherwise, you get a few extra waves. And then these talismans are aimed. So what you want to do is focus your attacks on this one as long as you can until it, like, dies. And then focus on this one. Like this. And then obviously this one's going to keep shooting because it's not dead. You want to move quickly over because fairies will start coming from here. They shoot a wide shot, sorta, and so you can't just like simply tap stream it like you've done with several others the bullets. So they'll start shooting. And so because you're close to the wall, a lot of them won't be able to do much. So you quickly take them out, and then you want to make your way to the right. Fairies will come from the right. And because they came from the right, you want to move to the right wall immediately after taking them out. And then after doing so, you'll take them out, and then you move to the right wall, and then they alternate sides that they come from, so then they'll come from the left. And so now you want to sort of move your way to the left. You'll take down the left wave, the right wave, and then another left one. Anytime you take down a wave, you want it to be close to the wall. If you're near the left wall, you want the wave to be over here. If you're near the right wall, you want it to be over here. Because otherwise, you're going to get stuck in a really ugly situation. These are the same as before. So just do what you did again. All of these like pellets that they shoot are slow, and you generally want to very slowly move your way through it so that they all aim in the same spot. Same here. Do not move much here. You can't. What I like to do is aim it at a corner, but I was kind of stuck near the center when they started shooting, so I just chose not to move much. As long as you don't move much there, it shouldn't be an issue because they're all gonna like aim there, and then when they get close, you move away a bit, and once you do that, they're almost all of them are done shooting. And now we have the main part of the stage, which is Suiko. Now, she's obviously going to be the hardest part. The stage isn't very difficult at all. And so, when she comes in, if you struggle with the first spell card, then here's something to take note of. So you have, so before the first non-spell begins, if you want to have an easier time with the first spell, you want to be either like, you want to be sort of like top right or top left of her. It doesn't really matter. You can do above, but I don't suggest it because then you'll have to move around her when you move down. So once the first non-spell begins, you simply just stay once it starts or is about to start or something like that. When the music's like kicking in after you skip the text and before she's about to shoot, you want to quickly make your way down. I don't do that here because I find the first spell easy enough as it is. This is her hardest non-spell. It is aimed at you, so try not to move too much. You can stream it, but it's more effort than is needed. So what I meant about being up here and like misdirecting it and whatnot is these lasers are aimed at the beginning of the first non. So if you're up here, then they're gonna, instead of closing in down here and moving inward towards you or somewhere near you, instead they're gonna be aimed upwards. And so you won't have much to deal with here. But I usually do it down because I don't need to accidentally get myself sniped on first non. And this spell card isn't very difficult. I'm not really sure why my cap rate is 7 out of 14, but so you always want to misdirect. All these bullets will spawn and all across the top of the screen. You always want to aim it towards the wall and towards the light blue lasers. Because so the light blue lasers is the reason, because these will always come second and they alternate sides. So first it'll be like left, then it'll be right, whatnot, and it'll swap. And then these bullets, since they're all aimed at you and they spawn all across the top, if you're not quite towards the wall and say you're like in the center or even like halfway over here, they're all going to come at different angles. And so if you're like here, then you're going to have like a bubble shooting down center when it pushes you to center. If you're up here, then you have all this stuff coming straight down towards you. So you always want to be towards the wall. With this one, you also just want to be patient. Don't be like too greedy with your damage because it's not hard anyways. So as long as you're just making sure you're taking her down, dealing damage, then it's very simple. None of the bullets should ever come near you unless you do something wrong, you're not fast enough or whatever. And eventually it'll just end. All these blue talismans are also aimed. A lot of our nons are aimed. And the red ones are the blues that ricochet off like the wall and whatnot. You just focus on the reds for the most part, and then like try to stream the blues. You can still pay attention to the blues, but don't put like too much focus into them because again, they are aimed, so you can do something about that. For his second spell, you're gonna have to do 2 tight dodges, and that's it. With Reimu A, you have to do 3. And the main thing is just take your time trying to make this dodge, because the gaps will slowly get bigger, and you have plenty of time before the green lasers start coming back up, or the red ones, or whatever. You only have to do 2. With Marisa's hitbox, it's a bit annoying sometimes, but... Oh yeah, something also very important. When trying to dodge that one, try to do diagonal movements, like, if you need to make a very, like, slight adjustment, lightly tap, like, down and up. No, not down and up. Down and right, or down and left, or up and right, because then you'll move less horizontally, and so it'll be much easier to position yourself correctly. For this spell, you just want to be a bit above the bottom of the screen and move left and right. If it lasts too long, you give her more chance to give you some nasty movements, and so sometimes you can just get, like, walled here. For Iron Ring, you want to aim them all down, and then just quickly move up aim them all upwards. Rinse and repeat. You can time this in such a way that it's super consistent in the same always, but I didn't. I never felt the need to. Sometimes you get some stray stuff, which can be really annoying based on your mispatterned timing, but usually it's fine. Usually you just keep moving up and down, pay attention to any stray rings that may hit you, and do what you need to. This is just streaming. I like to move when she shoots, which I do by a sound, but it's whatever. So for Jade of the Horrid River, it's a route, but you have several ways of doing it, and it's very important how I do it because it makes it super easy. So I essentially have what I'd call two methods: zipper and hallway or volcano. I call it different names. I don't really have a name for it. I just think it's better to have some way to call it. So zipper is what I'm gonna do here. I focus myself towards the top of this sort of row, and then I'll slowly move down along with it, and it'll like zip in front of me. And it's very important you take this slow, because if you're too fast, then you can't really just start to take it slow again, because they're a lot lower than before. And you just want to move it slow enough to where these bottom rice bullets are aimed like pretty diagonally up, and so you can just sit at the bottom at some point and they'll all just move past you. Like here, like already like right here or here, they've started aiming upwards. And so I can just keep moving down and nothing will stop me. Then it's the column method. I like to stay in the center, or at least under Suiko during these. You just want to very quickly get at the bottom or inside of the hallway that it creates, and you just stay still for the most part. They'll slowly move in on you, and you want to be very patient with it. You want to at some point you want to move upwards, but the slower you are with it, not too slow obviously, the less like residue you'll have. So less bullets you'll have coming from behind. And if you leave too many, then you're going to have to do a micro dodge. Otherwise, you can just dodge around it. All of these, like, whether it's vertical, diagonal, going top right to bottom left, or top left to bottom right, or whatever, that's all static. And so, as you can essentially create a route of how you want to go about doing this attack. And it will usually end about there. So with practice, that one shouldn't be hard, but it's definitely a bit funky to figure out at first. This is the same as the one before, just a bit like faster and more crowded. For this spell, so green waves will curl like this. They'll move to the left and then around like this. They'll move counterclockwise. Blue waves will do the opposite. They'll move clockwise. The important thing is you need to make it to this sort of inner ring that's, well, currently crowded by bullets and whatnot. For green waves, you want to do anywhere from the center to basically anywhere on the left. Like this sort of area that I'm highlighting with my mouse. For blue waves, you want to do either center or somewhere here. You need this area. Generally, I always try to do the below her so I can do more damage. But if you have to and you can read it fast enough, then you should try to find a gap here, because sometimes the gap here is just nasty. And you also need to unfocus around her just to make sure you're safe. But it's, unless you get like a really nasty gap, typically it's not very difficult. You just keep moving around and whatnot, and eventually it'll be over. This spell cry is the same as the one before, essentially. A non-spell, I mean. Just move left and right. If it lasts too long, you get screwed. Now for this one, you want to always try to be near the center laser so you can actually deal damage. And you want to move up through the jelly beans here. Don't try to bottom hug. Either move down with them or move up against them to keep yourself safe. Because trying to bottom hug this can result in a lot of issues since of how they sort of like cross at the bottom. It's not too difficult, but you could potentially mess it up if you don't have enough practice on it, I guess. That one's just streaming. Fire Brave's the Wind and Rain. She does have movement here, which I never noticed, but it's very minimal. And that's what makes these light blue things not static. Well, they are technically static, but her movement is random. I believe she might move towards you, but I can't say for sure. The rest of this rice is just random. So this is the second hardest spell card in the fight, because it's a lot of raw dodging. And so there's not like, ooh, follow this route or whatever. You just need to play well and not mess up. It's also a very tanky attack. Like, this one takes a bit of time for a spell card that you're, like, constantly under her for. Sometimes you get bad RNG with the rice, sometimes it's good. Particularly annoying with Marisa due to her hitbox. This is just streaming. You can stream this slower than I am, but you typically don't have a reason to unless you're playing Reimu C. Which I don't even do it then. Alright, so Touhou 4 is not difficult when you get it down. If you're doing it like just blind or whatever, or you don't really have like a route for it, then it's hard, but you just need to figure out what to do. So the first one, she'll always move up. This first one will always move up. The second one will too, but we'll get to that. You want to aim it downwards, because it'll always move towards your position, and then you want to move it to the right. And then you want to do this movement where you stream it upwards. You can hear like a sort of like sound before she moves, and that's how you're gonna react to it when she's moving from off screen to on screen, or even if you just want to do it from here. I just always use the sound cue, and you can't really use a visual cue when she's off screen. And you want to stream this up slowly, but not too slowly, because these bursts, if you move too slowly, they will hit you. And so you need to be very careful of that. But as long as you aren't too slow, you should be fine. Just be careful. Just be wary. When this one moves up, it'll also move towards you, obviously. You want to aim them both to the right. Then you want to aim them to the left. And then you want to sort of stream them down, similar to what you did up here. I'm typically much more cautious here due to not knowing their, like, position over here and what angle they're willing to come at. After about, like, when you're nearing the bottom, and hopefully this one isn't at such an angle where it just blocks you, you then want to start moving to the right. Typically, you want to have them aim downwards, because if they aim, like, horizontal or above you and not under you, that can cause a lot of issues. And then you want to move this in sort of L shape, so you move them up, move them to the left, move them, like, sort of down or diagonal or whatever, and you should be put in this sort of triangle. Typically, this is where it'll end. If it doesn't, you can aim them upwards off screen, and then to this, like, sort of corner here, and then really it's all up to you. I doubt it'll last that long, but depends on how much you messed up the streaming down part. And so that one should be super consistent. Touhou War is our main survival and the hardest one. Now, for the most part, it's not very difficult. The first, like, 50 seconds are very mindless. And even past that, the next 10 seconds don't require much thought either. But it's after that where you have to really pay attention. So first of all, you have so every odd wave will send these white pellets at you. These are just random. They'll come from any part of the top of the screen. They'll come at, like, any real angle. It's like, not directly up or whatever. Every even wave, you'll get red ones that aim at you. But due to their different angles, and I don't believe they aim strictly at you, they might aim a bit up or down. But that might be because of how they aim. Like, some could aim here, some could aim here, and so they don't exactly look right. Another important thing are these vines, as I call them. These are random. They aren't, like, completely random, but I believe it's either their height or their specific formation is always random. And so different things will appear differently during certain waves. It's not static at all. So you'll see me going over here in this, like, sort of hole that will always show up, whether higher or lower, just random, like I said. You can also do most of this in the center, and if that's what you're comfortable with, go ahead. I just prefer to do it over here. Now, like I said, for the most part, the spell card's boring. And you're going to be doing nothing special. 28 seconds, which is after this wave, is when you want to make a change to whatever you're doing. If you're in the center, actually, I don't suggest being in the center at this point. So 28 seconds will hit. Instead of going into this hole, you want to go into this large column next to it, because if you're unlucky and you go into this one, you can just die. And I've had that happen, and it's not worth it at all. You gain nothing from going there. In fact, you lose stuff because there's a lot more luck involved. So you just go into this part, move along with it, dodge what you need to, move back there, and then you stream it once more. And here's where things get very, very important, which is like the last 13 seconds. You want to try to stream these guys slowly, so a lot of them are very sharply angled and not towards the center, because that way you can quickly make your way to the very top center. Now, if you were paying attention there for whatever reason, you'd have noticed that both these red ones and these white ones will have spawned wherever they want up here, but during this section and onward, none of them will spawn directly top center. I've never seen it happen. And so what I do is I simply get right up there, because none of them will like spawn on top of you. And then you'll see that like these leaves or whatever, you'll hear like the charge up noise. You want to start streaming down as soon as you can. Like obviously right here, I don't want to start streaming down right now because that's in front of right behind me. But you want to stream down as soon as you feel comfortable with it, which is very soon. Because while I get lucky here, and I get them like spawning like top left as soon right as it starts, you can also get them like right here, and so they could immediately just knock you right out. So you want to start streaming downwards, and they'll all start missing you. And here's where I have a lot to say. First of all, you want to be near this like you want to be towards the right of like the large column in the center that usually spawns. So that way, a lot more of them aim to the right, and the last like 3 seconds will be a lot easier on yourself. Second of all, always be wary of everything. Third of all, this rice formation right here that's about to close in is incredibly important, because as you can see right here, there's a part that's like moving inward towards the center column. This specific part, you do not want to be above this. You want to put as much effort as possible when streaming down, that you move fast enough that you are ahead of this, that you are below it. Because if you're above this, chances are you're going to die, or you're going to have to do a very disgusting dodge that is just not necessary. So as you can see, otherwise I'd have been all up in like this, and I'd have to like, I don't know, move through here, around here. Maybe if it take too long, I'd have to dodge through like something looking like this. It's not worth it. So just move ahead of it, and then you keep streaming towards the bottom center. And in like the last 3 to 2 seconds, at this point, it's all up to either luck or skill. Typically a mix of the two. I've had this be extremely lucky where it's just totally empty here due to the angles everything's spawning at. If you get more reds here, that's luckier because they'll be like here when you're dodging. If you get them here, you get this. And the whites are just random already. And so you're going to be about here. And at this point, it's all up to just reading and dodging. You only have to do it for like 2 seconds, but it's the most intense 2 seconds of the entire stage. And here it comes pretty close. I have one that comes right here. Then you have to move, and then I have to move over and around everything. Don't try to bottom hug it. You'll just die. So after that, you're pretty close to done. You still have one more thing, and that's the final. The final is not very difficult, but with Reimu, it's fine. With Marisa, you have a bit of a thicker hitbox, and so what you want to probably do, at least as Marisa, you can also do as Reimu, it helps there too, is you want to be very slightly above the bottom of the screen. So like if you're at the bottom of the screen, hold shift and very lightly tap up, because that will give yourself more room and you're less likely to get clipped. And also, a way to read this for me is I'll always pay attention to the bullets coming from the right to the left, and then I'll pay attention to like the next one that's like top right of me, maybe a bit more above, and I'll always just say like I'll try to stay under that one. Like right here. This bullet is what I'd probably want to focus on, but if I'm scared or just misreading, I might focus on this one or that one. Generally, like something here. And so I pay attention to these and I say, all right, I'm going to stay under this. And that's exactly what I do. I try to stay under it for as long as I can. Obviously, not going to keep trying and then ram into it. You want to stay under it, but you don't want to do vertical movements, obviously. You want to be horizontally under it, or vertically under it, I mean, but not like directly. Well, technically directly. I'm like, it's hard to explain. Basically, in that vertical lane, you want to be under it, but you don't want to move vertically to be like touching it, essentially. You just want to make sure you are under it vertically. And then when it comes like near you, like here, or when it's about to like cross, you don't want to obviously keep following it because then it's just eventually just going to run into you. It's a bit hard to explain. Maybe you just read it better than I do, or you don't need to think about reading it, really. The main issue for me has always been phase changes, because the waves will just suddenly get denser, and so reading it can be a bit tricky at that point, because suddenly where you're essentially having to look is different. It's a long spell card. It lasts like, what, a minute? I don't know, it doesn't say, it seems. But it'll last a while, and you just need to, I mean, practice it a little. It's not really worth too much practice, because it's not very difficult. Obviously, if you have to, and you're bad at it, like I am sometimes, then do it, but usually you'll be fine. And that is it for my sort of walkthrough of the run. Now is the rest of the video, and I haven't actually recorded yet, which will be going over the different like shot types, starting from the best one to some of the worst ones. My reasoning why. It's not like a concrete thing. This isn't like what you should look for. It's honestly kind of hard to rate them, because there's one I believe to be the best, one I believe to the second best, one I'm pretty sure is like the third best, and for the last three, it's mostly just like a toss up. Like none of them are very good. I think fourth place is fine where it is. For the last two, you could probably like switch those around. They both are pretty bad. And so yeah, let's move on to those sections. So starting off, we have Reimu B is the best shot type. Now, if we know anything about Mountain of Faith's shot types, obviously you would assume that she would be the best one. She has essentially the second highest damage at max power, not from any distance, bottom hugging, well, mainly just bottom hugging, and we'll get to that later. But she also has the small hitbox, which in Mountain of Faith, Marisa has a much bigger hitbox than Reimu, making it rather annoying, especially for this stage when the hardest spell card is a survival, so your damage there does not matter. And then you have the second hardest, which is a kind of dense spell, so that's why Reimu B would be good. She essentially just does what you need to. The only thing I'd say that's bad about her is the fact that she's a forward focus shot. Sometimes she's her stage performance could be better, that's for sure. Mainly during the section with those green things that come from the bottom and just spray out leaves green rice just everywhere. She can't really kill them for a while as they go straight up from the bottom, and so she struggles a bit there. And several of Suiko's spell cards require you to go around her or above her, making a forward focus shot not be as good as it could be. But usually a lot of that is very consistent anyways, so I just wanted something bad to say about her, really. Some of these pros and cons will be not repeated again and stuff like that, as it's mostly just show, or some of them at least. Some of them are very simple, like high damage, small hitbox, that's just good, no matter what. But stuff like forward focus shot is a very nitpicky thing to say. And so I'm putting it there so you can see why, or at least be able to compare it to a shot below it in the list, as it will give this sort of greater idea of what some shots do better than others. It'll be more clear near the end because the last two shots that I have are very similar, and so I really start nitpicking there, but one is definitely better than the other. And so yeah, that's why I believe Reimu B to be the best. And now, let us see that very run. And now we have Reimu A as the second best shot type. Now, she is a homing shot, so usually you'd think that she'd suck for extra, which is normally the case for most homing shots, aside from a few. But when it comes to Mountain of Faith, this homing shot's actually pretty good, all things considered. And some of the big reasons are her stage performance is probably the best one, as it does. First of all, it doesn't require thought or routing, which is a nice bonus for me. And also, it's just not a lot will be able to do anything to you when you have homing, because there's a lot of enemies coming from like the left, right, different sections where you have like 3 at once, and so you can focus on one while homing deals with another. And here's where that forward focus thing I mentioned with Reimu B comes into play, because with Reimu A, you can hit above her. During Iron Ring, you can hit Touhou when you're above her. During Croaking Frog, when you do the spin around her, you still damage her. During Jade, you still damage her even if you're above her. All in all, it doesn't mean too much, but it's still something nice. And just like Reimu B, she still has that small hitbox, which comes into play during the second survival, which it's kind of important. It's not like super duper needed, but it's pretty huge in my opinion with how inconsistent Touhou War can be. But then you have the bad things about Reimu A, which is mainly just low damage. Because I'm getting mixed up. Because of her low damage, things will last a while. And while it helps when you have to spin around Touhou, or maybe you can't necessarily always stay in the center, like during 7 Stones, it can suck. Most notable example for me is the second spell in a way, because every single other shot type only has to do 2 waves of the second spell, no matter what. Reimu A has to do 3. Which, it's not, second spell ain't really hard, but I figured I might as well mention it, because this is Reimu A specific. No other shot type has to deal with it, unless you're playing Reimu C in some weird way. And because it's low damage, Froggy Braves the Wind and Rain will last a while, the final might last a while. And that low damage is pretty big. Usually low damage, breaks a shot. If the damage is low, it's not that good, which is why usually homing shots aren't seen as very useful. But for this stage, I find it to be rather helpful. One of the biggest reasons being that hitbox. If every character had the same hitbox, whether it was Marisa's or Reimu's, then Reimu A wouldn't be as high as she is right now. She'd probably be down a step. And so yeah, I should go over strategies, but Reimu B is just a pretty standard forward focus, and Reimu A is just pretty standard but helpful homing shot. So there's not really much you can do with these two. They're pretty basic. And so with that said, let's go on to the Reimu A run. And now, after Reimu A, we have Marisa C, who is a really good shot type. She's a really good shot. She does a lot of damage. She has versatility throughout stages. And the only reason she isn't above Reimu A is because of her hitbox. As I mentioned during the Reimu A section, War is the hardest spell card, and your damage output means nothing. You could be Marisa B at 3 power, you could be anything, you could literally have no shot type, and it doesn't matter because all you have is dodging, which means the only thing that matters is your speed and your hitbox, and speed really doesn't matter during War. Outside of that, she has a ton of great stuff. She has great stage performance, decent, really isn't quite as good as Reimu A, honestly, because of how you have to set up the options every time you need to do it, which is quite frequently. But she does really well. She can multitask not consistently, very well. She has incredible damage. When you stack up 3 of the options on the boss, or really anything, you do so much. You do more damage than Reimu B. And even if you aren't under the boss, you still do good damage because you have those flamethrowers going on, which means she's just very good. But as I mentioned, because of that large hitbox, I have to bring her down below Reimu homing because it's just very annoying. Another thing is that movement can be very annoying, and what I mean by that is during spell cards such as Croaking Frog or Iron Ring, especially Iron Ring, what you want to do obviously is put your options down and then dodge when you need to dodge, and things would go fine. But both of those spell cards and a couple of others ask you to be unfocused for a decent amount of time, which can result in you have to like shift spam to move around something or move fast, which kind of isn't an issue. For Croaking Frog, it's more of an annoyance than anything, but for Iron Ring, that movement, like that jaggedy movement, means you're moving slower than you'd like to, which means the iron rings move differently, which means you have to do things. You just need to not put your turret down for that one, honestly, unless you can figure something out, which I sure didn't. I just took the long way. Aside from that, it's usually fine. There's no real other like thing where it matters. Suka's movement is very consistent throughout most of her spell cards. When it isn't, it's not really an issue. Most of the time, she doesn't even move, or it's like Froggy Braves the Wind and Rain where she barely moves. She kind of moves during non-spells. It can be a bit annoying there, but it's not really a problem. One thing is just, Marisa C can take a while to get used to because of, setting up the option and whatnot. Getting it just right to where you get the 3 options on top, which I'm not very consistent at. I can only kind of do it. She's a very good shot for a clear, at least. And for NN, if you're going to choose a Marisa shot type, this is definitely one to go to. Especially because you can't abuse Marisa B, and Marisa A is bad. So, Marisa C is a pretty good go-to if you want to. I'd say if you're going for like no miss, no bomb, and you want a sort of challenge shot type, or you don't want to just immediately say, I want to use Reimu B because she's the best one, then I'd say this is a pretty good one to choose from. And with that being said, let us get on with said run. And here is where we start getting the shot types that are just not very good, starting with Reimu C. Now, Reimu C's damage is quite honestly atrocious for the most part. I mentioned earlier that I'd talk about something later on in the Reimu B section, which was damage, and that's where Reimu C comes into play. Because her damage, if you're like low on the screen, it's totally awful, and it's terrible. That's all I gotta say about it. But because of how spread shots work, if you're right up in front of the face of the boss, you do a shotgun, so more shots hit. And Reimu C's shotgun does amazing damage, and that's something I can say that's good about her. This is when focused, by the way. Unfocused, she has a different shot that is completely and utterly worthless. I've never seen a practical use for it. Who knows? I could be wrong, but I've never seen anything good. So she has a great shotgun, which is surprisingly helpful in this stage. It's one of the reasons why she doesn't follow Reimu A to the 3-wave second spell, and it's because you can shotgun. You can deal a lot of damage because you're so close to Touhou that you just murder. And she has a fair few spells like this. Unfortunately, some of the harder spells, such as Froggy Braves the Wind and Rain, and obviously Touhou, which is a plus and a minus there, you can't really shotgun. You can't really shotgun the final. Froggy Braves the Wind and Rain, you can shotgun the start of it, and then you can do it at the bottom, but she still takes longer than like anyone else, even if you do that, I believe. But some stuff you can shotgun, at least for just a bit, which, I mean, it's better than not at all. And so she has that. Obviously, she has the small hitbox, which makes her nice for Touhou. And then, so I mentioned the spread isn't useful. Oh, I mean that on the stage. The issue is, as I mentioned during bosses, if you're low on the screen, you don't do much damage at all. Like, it's depressing. And so during the stage, that also carries through, because you're only really gonna hit enemies with one part of the shot if you're at the bottom, which is where the spread would come in handy. But she doesn't do enough damage that a lot of enemies still just withstand it, and sometimes it's detrimental because you can't even like kill an enemy that's above you very fast. You'd have to shotgun it, which is easier said than done at times. And then there's the part where, because of how it's spread out, it has blind spots. And that's another reason why the spread isn't very useful, because there's these blind spots in the spread. It's not like Yuko and IN where she just covers the whole freaking screen or something. Her blind spots are decently big, resulting in some enemies just not being hit, which lowers any reason to actually use a spread shot type. The only reason she isn't lower is because Touhou just has a lot of shotgun availability, essentially. You can shotgun on Croaking Frog, you can shotgun on second spell, first spell, at the start of some nons, why not? You can do it a lot. And because you're not forced to bottom hug the entirety of Froggy Braves the Wind and Rain, it's not as terrible as it could be. And she has the hitbox, which helps a lot for Touhou. But the Froggy Braves the Wind and Rain, even when shotgunning, still takes forever. The final lasts 800 years. And so overall, she has some merits. She's more useful in extra than she is in main game, honestly. But she's still pretty not good. But she's better than the other two we haven't gotten to. And so, generally, some of them are annoying things. A mid-boss can be annoying with how you want to focus on shotgunning. I actually originally was messing around in TH Crack. And I messed around with Reimu C because I knew about the shotgun, but I've never used it very much. And so I went to Kaneko's second spell, because that's just an easy one to sort of shotgun on, and it's just an easy spell in general. And so I did that and said, why not continue the run? I then proceeded to no miss no bomb the rest of the fight somehow. I'm still in awe of that, how I even did Touhou War, because when I went to go practice for this, I sure as hell didn't know what I was doing. And so I've had essentially this for a while, but even so, she's not great for it. She's not as terrible as you might think. Generally, most of the shots aren't. None of these shots, even the 6 out of 6 one we're going to get to, the worst one, even that's not that terrible for this extra, because one thing is just, because the hardest is survival, again, damage isn't that important. It's mostly hitbox, and even then the hitbox isn't massive. It makes a big difference in my opinion, but it's not like the world's ending. I don't know, it's just like, you have the good shots, and you have essentially the mediocre shots. Some of these shots are like criminally bad. But that's enough about Reimu C. Well, kinda. That's enough me talking about Reimu C. Here is the run. Now with the second worst shot for this extra is Marisa B. Now as usual with Marisa, big hitbox is a big issue. Next would be her damage output. So for Marisa C's damage output was great. It was wonderful. I love it. So is Reimu B's. Marisa B doesn't really have that. It's not very good. And I mentioned that she's basically just bad Reimu B. And what I mean by that is she's a forward focus shot. And that is essentially all she is. But she lacks, the small hitbox and worthwhile damage, making her much worse. The thing she has over Reimu B is piercing, which never helps during the Suiko fight or the Kaneko mid-boss fight, and it barely helps during the stage. It kinda helps, not really. The fact that the lasers are instantaneous and they never go away, and kind of that they're piercing, but not. It's more so a side effect of the piercing that makes them kind of help on the stage. It's very minor though, it's nothing too big. I mentioned here that the movement is standard. I won't go over that quite yet. That's gonna have to do with when I go over the next shot type, but it should be obvious who that is at this point. And so I'll go over that more, since that's another thing I mentioned where I'm gonna be a bit nitpicky here and there. That's where that comes into play. Now, in the pros and cons, I mentioned the 3 power bug, which I thought was just something important to bring up. So the 3 power bug, if you don't know, I mentioned it earlier. If you're at 3 power with Marisa B, you do a hilarious amount of damage. Like, not just, ooh, haha, Reimu C shotgun, not Reimu B, Reimu C shotgun is pretty good. No, this is, everything dies in like a second. The boss patterns, enemies die in like frames. The only issue is when I was doing NN, and then you start off at 4 power in the extra stage, and the only way to remove power is to either bomb or die, which means I wasn't able to use it, which means Marisa B kinda sucks. If you know Sock, he's done like freaking pretty much every Windows element. I say pretty much, he's missing, like 1. But for like Marisa B, what he would do is he just stayed at 3 power the whole game. And you know what? That's just what you gotta do. Can't do that for extra though, sadly. At least when you're doing no miss, no bomb. If you're doing no bomb, if you're doing no miss, if you're doing a clear, go for it. Use the character to its fullest. If you're doing NN, you don't have a choice, sadly. I mean, essentially everything you know about Reimu B carries over for this shot type, and everything you know about Marisa's hitbox also carries over. She just doesn't do very well. The main thing is just that mediocre damage and that big hitbox. It's just not good. And like I said, mediocre. Patterns take a while to kill. She's forward focus, which I mentioned earlier for Reimu B was a nitpick. She has similar issues on the stage, which is funny because I mentioned that the piercing helps a bit. It only really helps, like, I don't know, like when fairies come quickly at the top left and right or whatever. Not much good to say about her. Things just take a while. And the final takes long enough to where you're probably going to get clipped at some point. I know I did. I lost a run to the final with this shot type when I didn't with Marisa C. So yeah, that's Marisa B. Not much more to say. So let's move on to the run. And now we get to Marisa A. And the good thing I can say about her is, well, it could be worse. It could be much worse. And that was something I mentioned earlier, where even like the worst shot types here aren't like awful. It's not the end of the world. It's not a terrible shot type that you hear people talk about all the time. It's like, she ain't good, but especially for this extra, I don't know. You can use her, and it's not like painful, but then you have the bad stuff about her. Obviously, the big hitbox. Mediocre damage. Her damage is around Marisa B. I don't remember if it was worse or better, but it sure feels worse because of how her options are. And they can be annoying to control, similar to Marisa C in a way. But the thing is, Marisa C, when you use, it can be annoying, but if you use her option correctly, it pays off. You don't get the same kind of payoff with Marisa A, because the stars that her options shoot out are not very strong at all. And I notice how I said bugged damage. Basically, the reason why she's so bad is when the stars hit like an enemy or whatever, they cause this little explosion. And what should happen, or what should be the case, is that's a splash damage explosion, which means the stars have an extra layer of damage, and they have that slight bit of range. Splash damage has never been very useful, but it's something usually. I mean, sometimes it helps. And it would help here because it would mean she has way more damage. But something happened. I don't really know what. I don't know if it's just completely missing or it's strangely misplaced. But it's not where it should be. I know that much. And so if you try to like spread out her options, say, you'll see me do it in the run. I did it before when I was doing the showcase and talking over it. Sometimes I spread out the options to give myself that extra range, and it really doesn't do anything because they just don't do enough damage. They don't kill enemies fast. They don't hurt bosses very well. It's just not good. And that's, again, when I mentioned in Marisa B's section about quote-unquote standard movement, that's one of the nitpick things, because Marisa A's options can be very annoying to control. While you don't necessarily want them to be like spread out, like sometimes you might as well during like the stage, but usually you just want them under you, which is also a problem because you have to do unfocused movement during this fight in several locations, whether it be Croaking Frog, first spell if you choose to not do the laser misdirect. And when you have to go unfocused, the options move all over the place. So when you get under the boss, you have to reposition yourself and the options so that you can actually deal freaking damage. And so yeah, Marisa ain't too good. That's generally all I have to say about Marisa. Again, she's not like egregiously bad, but she's easily the worst shot type out of all of these. And with that said, let's get on with the run already. And with that, the video is over. Well, kinda. This is just gonna be like my closing remarks. Up here on the screen, I just have some like stats of how long things took me, like the amount of attempts, the amount of time it took, that's including the practice I put in, and a little thing I had where it was just like what I lost my runs to, at least late on. I didn't feel like counting perfectly everything because I would have had to analyze my VODs a lot harder, which I didn't feel like doing. Which is why we have like the squigglies for attempts. I'm pretty sure Reimu A only took one actual like NN attempt. I had like a no bomb attempt prior, but that was strictly just like a no bomb. Before that, after that, it was just like practice. I didn't count that into this. And Marisa B, I think I counted right. I'm not sure. The others were all over the place. The funny thing is Reimu B, I called her the best shot, and I truly do believe that. Yet, similarly to what happened with EOSD, she was the shot I struggled with the most. Because as you can see, it took roughly 3.5 hours, which is similar to Reimu A, but the attempts are much higher. And all this runs lost to stuff, most of this is Reimu B. Touhou War, the final, 8th spell, 7th spell, all of that, I'm pretty sure happened to Reimu B. I don't remember if 8th spell did. I don't think that did. But like 7 spells, I'm pretty sure like 2 of those Touhou War ones were Reimu B. I know one of the finals were because I got clipped with Marisa B on that final too. That was painful. And so yeah, that's just some silly stuff I put together. I hope you enjoyed. I had a lot of fun doing these runs. Making the video less so, just because I'm not a huge fan of editing. I like talking. I liked going through my run and commentating over it. That was fun for me. What wasn't fun was having to use an editing software, which is funny because I'm not even that good at it. I got a bit lazy here and there. Well, not really. I didn't get lazy. I got lazy last time. I did a lot different of a style this time compared to my EOSD one because I just felt it would be easier for me to explain with my own words why I thought some things rather than typing it all down. And also that other video felt like it was from 2008. I'm not sure what to say here. I'm kind of just ad-libbing this, which I ad-libbed pretty much everything else. Like I had like a couple sections I like practiced just a little, but there was no like script, which I probably should have created like at least an outline of what I should have talked about, because I had to cut out a lot of like dead air and stuff like that, which it wasn't that much of a pain, but that's just how it is. I've been procrastinating on this for a while because of just how much of a pain I find editing to be, and I get like anxious when I have to record my voice like this. But this is the last thing I'm doing before I just watch it all through and hope everything looks fine. Back. And so yeah, I hope this helps at least one person, or at least someone enjoys watching it. Really, there's a lot of like, I mean, it's like gonna be like over 2 hours, but at the same time, like an hour of that was just me slapping in my runs and stuff like that. This is not only the format I want to go with heading forward, because I want to do this for literally every extra stage. Maybe not POFV. That's not very interesting. Like, No Miss No Bomb Extra is a very sad category for that game. And that's also going to be one of the last ones I do, because it's basically just going to be tedium. Yeah, I plan on doing this for every other stage I do, which is going to be a pain for like some of the ones with more shot types. IN, Wabak, PCB, I'm doing Extra and Phantasm in one video, so that's also going to be kind of a pain. But the next one I'm doing is 10 Desires, which is one of the big reasons why I put this out, why I finally got back to actually finishing this, because I had been working on doing all-shot EXNNN, and I already have 2, and Yomu's coming up swell. Like, she's looking to be the best for that one, but I can't say for sure right now. I haven't actually finished a Yomu run. I've done Marisa and Reimu. Sanai's for last, because of course she is. I'd really appreciate it if, to anyone who watched this to comment on like what I did good, what I did bad, because I'd like to improve somewhat. I mean, I don't want to just sort of like think this works, and then it's like, no, it doesn't. So any sort of like criticism, I can take it. I'll be fine. I hope I get better at editing, at least somewhat. I definitely had some weird decisions here and there. I still don't even know how to do transitions well. I don't know how to edit transitions either. I just slap them in and hope the timing is well. I need to figure out how to do certain things just more efficiently, because sometimes it's a pain. One thing I do like, which isn't even the video, it's like the thumbnail. I'm kind of just going to stick with that idea heading forward, because that's what I did for USD, and I plan on doing that for MOF. It's simple, it's not like complex or anything, but I just like how simple it is. I like how it looks in a way. I don't know if it's a good idea to switch the background. I think it's just, it depends, I guess. Something about, I don't know, it was Suiko's sprite, and then there was just, what was it? Oh yeah, white outlines. I actually used outlines this time. That was one thing I improved upon. I put outlines on all like the text and whatnot to make it not like hard to read. Hopefully the resolution this time isn't garbage. Like, the runs themselves still have those black bars, but that's just, I don't want to have the gameplay stretched. Maybe next time I'll figure out something. I'll try to, I don't know, slap. I don't know what I'd put there though. That's the main issue. I mean, maybe it would just be like, the only real thing I've thought of was like art, but I don't know if I want to do that. I mean, it's not, I can't draw. It wouldn't be my art, so I'm not sure if I'd feel comfortable with doing it. And then there's like text. But at the same time, I basically say everything I want to in the different sections that I have. So I really have no reason to exactly do that. So I don't know. I don't like the black bars on the sides. But otherwise, I don't really know what I'm doing. Luckily, I decided to actually fix the rest of it. The last video I did, the ESD one, I had like a weird resolution error. Kinda, because the first thing I put into the video was like some random screenshot I found off of Google, because that's what I use for like my backgrounds during like this here. This is just the screen, this is just the title screen, and so I just blur it. And that's what I did for USD, but I didn't take my own screenshot, and I should have also actually, well, I didn't really know how Adobe worked. I definitely plan on going back to that one eventually to spruce it up. Don't know how much or how much farther it's gonna be. I don't want to do it like quite yet. I'd rather wait a while, because I mean, I don't want to make a video and then make another and be like, alright, time to go back and fix it up. I'd rather get better at this, a lot better at this, or a lot more familiar with it, before just jumping right into it, trying to fix it up. I'm not sure what else to say. I said everything I wanted to, essentially. I don't really know what else to say. This is just me rambling at this point. Just like, to anyone who made it this far, thank you for watching. I know it'd probably be a little painful to watch this stage for 2 hours, but you know, I thought about commentating over every run, but I'd rather just have them separate. Because how much can I really say between Marisa B and Reimu B? Like, what's really gonna change there? I'm just like, yep, this is a section we did before. Let's explain it. Like, I feel like I said everything I wanted to during the first run through. I don't need to really go that far in again. Yeah, like I said, next time it's gonna be TD, and that one should be fine. I have less of an issue about ranking the shots. I mean, it's basically just who's better, Youmu or Reimu, and then explaining my strats. I'm gonna go a lot more in depth with different strategies, because here it was mostly just like Marisa C, learn where you place your options, Reimu C, shotgun. That one's 10 Desires is going to be a lot more different because Reimu has homing, which changes some stuff. Marisa is just pure forward focus, that changes some stuff. Yomu's charge slash, that changes a good amount with how you approach certain things. Sanai sucks, that changes how you approach things a good amount. Like, it's pretty interesting for 10 Desires, because every, like, shot type, like, some stuff still stays the same, but a lot of it's going to be pretty different. So I'll go a lot more in depth with each shot type then. Here I didn't have much to say. You can only say so much about Marisa A. I basically just said she's kind of meh, and then moved on. I had fun with this stage. This is my second all-shot extras. All-shot perfect extra. I've done a few other perfect extras, but it wasn't all-shot. I've done, PCB, both of those, and UFO. And I'll be getting back to those soon. I planned on doing UFO first, but here we are. I got filtered. And I'll be heading back eventually. Pretty soon, honestly. Because next up's gonna be 10 Desires. And then after that, it's gonna be Perfect Cherry Blossom. And then after that, we're heading back to UFO. And then, I don't know from there. Maybe I'll try to do a PC98. I'll squeeze one in there. I'll try to do Lotus Land Story or Story of Eastern Wonderland. Because I've tried other stuff, and I'm starting to get scared of extras. The patterns are more intimidating. Soon I'm gonna get to a point where it starts getting pretty freaking difficult. Because so far, I mean, it's been hard. This stage wasn't too bad, just mainly because Suiko is very consistent, and the stage itself isn't very hard. And so it's like, I always called it the Sewer War waiting room, or at least the Big Four waiting room. That's where you can see the runs lost to thing. 7th, 8th Sewer War final. That was like the Elite Four. Although really, you shouldn't be dying to 8th spell when you practice it. I mean, I did it twice. I think originally I didn't actually have a section for it. And then I died to it twice, and I was like, you know what? Maybe it's a good idea. I did the same thing with 10 Desires. Man, I should stop rambling. I have more to say in a way, but it's too off topic. I'll just mention it whenever I stream again. I got stuff to say. I've been doing crud. And so yeah, once again, thank you for watching this far. I hope you enjoyed. I hope you stick around for any other of these I do, or just any runs I do in general. And if this helped you, I'm glad. I enjoy this sort of thing. I enjoy helping people with patterns and stuff like that. That's the main reason I'm doing this, and it's one of the main reasons I talk in like different servers and stuff. I just find it fun or enjoyable to try and help someone with a pattern that they struggle with, but I have an understanding of it, so I can help them, and if that helps them succeed, it feels good. So yeah, enough rambling from me. I've been going for 15 minutes, just talking and talking. I gotta render this video overnight, and then hopefully upload it the next day. So yeah, for the 600th time. Thank you for watching, and I hope to see you again. Bye-bye.